पहर दो भई पहर चार दिन दोय रात उपरांत पहर सातमा कहूँ ताकि विख्यात उपरांत पहर सातमा कहूँ ताकि विख्यात अब रात पहर दो भई। बोलिए श्री धाम के धनी की जय, प्राणनाथ प्यारे की जय। Dear Sundarsaji, I'd like to welcome you on yet another session of our Beetak Discourse. Thank you all so much for joining in. On yesterday's discourse, we talked about the 6th and 7th prahar of seva, of service. Prananath by Sundarsaji is a part of the Ashtaprahar seva. As it relates to the Ashtaprahar seva of Paramdham, they are emulating the seva that they would perform in Paramdham of Sri Raji Maharaj. They do not see any distinction between Prananath and Raji Maharaj because in the world of Jagani, in the world of awakening, Prananath is the Lord Supreme. So with that feeling, with the feeling that all these Sundarsats are the friends of Paramdham, they are serving each other. They are serving Prananath and they are meditating, they are singing the glory of Raji as they would do in Paramdham. So Padmavati Puri Dham, Sri Padmavati Puri Dham, the Mukti Peeth of the adherents of Sri Krishna Pranami faith is no less glorious than Paramdham itself. Mahamati Prananath, during the 6th, 5th and 6th Prahar, gives discourse again on 6th Prahar specifically from 9 to 12. There are a lot of Sundarsats that listen to his discourse. The discourse is given on both the Vedic and Abrahamic scriptures. There is Quran on the one side, the Vedas on the other. Mahamati Prananath is unraveling Paramdham in all the transcendent understanding that he is enlightened with. So it is glorious for every Sundarsat to have the company of Prananath. That is why they do not mind leaving their families behind. They are not worried about their future. They are not worried about their lives. They are all just engaged in serving Prananath as they would be serving Sri Raji Maharaj in Paramdham. So it is Padmavati Puri Dham where most of the books compiled in Tartam or unraveled, the book of Kilvat, Parikrama, Sagar, Singar, Sindhi, Marfat, and Mahamati Prananath is served as the Lord Supreme. And even after 12 in the morning, they are ready to serve Prananath. Because it is said, Na kachuina seva samana jo dilasana kula kari pehchana. So the service is incomparable when one serves the other with full open-mindedness and full dedication. And in Bhagavad Gita as well, it is stated that Seva Dharma Parama Gahano Yogina Mapyagamya. So they believe, the yogis, the practitioners of yoga also believe that the glory of service is incomparable and beyond value or priceless. So Sundarsaji know that it is through service that their souls would be awakened. And Mahamati Prananath keeps reminding the glory of seva to them. Tuma prema sevaye paoge par ye vachana dhani ke kahe niradara. Prananath continuously reminds Sundarsats the value of service, and Sundarsats are ready all the time in the service of Prananath. Even after 12, when most of the Sundarsats have already left to their cottages to take some rest, to sleep, there are other Sundarsats in the service of Prananath. The bed is prepared for Prananath to rest on, to sleep. with beautiful blankets, pillows, bed sheets, new bed sheets, and everything. So it is a beautiful setting. As it is all set, आए आगे अरज करी सेवे वल्लभदास घड़ी घड़ी पहर पहर सुनावे धाम लीला खास. Vallabhdas, one of the closest Sundarsats, one of the closest Sundarsat to Prananaji, who serves Prananaji, who is always there. The Hajuri, who serves Prananaji days and nights, he comes to Prananaji and requests Prananaji to discontinue his discourse and prepare himself for rest. But Mahamati Prananaji says, you make any preparations necessary. I'm having so much pleasantness. I'm having so much happiness explaining the Leelas of Paramdham. So do not disturb me. Mahamati Prananaji is experiencing the bliss of explaining Paramdham, and he does not want to take any rest. As Sundarsat served Prananaji as if Prananaji in Padmavati Puridham, but Prananaji says, when I'm explaining the Leelas of Paramdham, it seems as if I'm in this world, but I'm not. I am beyond the 14 lokas, perishable land. It feels like I'm here in this universe, but I'm always in the vicinity of the Lord Supreme in Paramdham. Prananaji says, Tum dekhat mohe indamet me to chaudi tabakati dur antargata brahmanda the tat sada sahiba ki hajur. I'm always in the presence of Sri Raji Maharaj. I'm in Paramdham. I'm explaining all these things that I'm explaining to you from Paramdham, because I'm not in my body. I'm floating with my soul to Paramdham. I'm experiencing the divine bliss and explaining and sharing that with you. Mahamati Prananaji is having such an ecstatic feeling when he explains Paramdham to his souls, to his consorts, because Prananaji is none other than Raji Maharaj himself, and those listeners are none other than the consorts. So explaining the divine abode of Paramdham is such a glorious thing for him to do. Again, while he's giving them discourse, while he is carrying their souls to Paramdham and explaining the Leelas and the features of Paramdham, few hours already passed, a couple of hours. समय भया पौड़न का राज पधारो इसठाम चर्चा में चित्त रहे स्वाद धाम वर्णन सब श्रवणा देत स्नेह सुखास गिरोह संयन. As I've already said, most of the Sundarsats have already bowed down to Prananaji and left to their cottages for rest. Only the awakened souls, as we already know, among those 5,000 Sundarsats, not all of them are the Brahma Srishtis. Not all of them have the spirit of the consorts of Paramdham. Some of them are Jivas, some of them are Ishwari Srishtis, the consorts of Akshara Brahma, infallible Brahma. So the special ones, the awakened ones, the blessed ones are there. Charcha mein chitta rahe. They do not care about anything. They do not care about their body. They do not care about the tiredness. They do not care what time it is that they are listening to the discourse of Prananaji. They are meditating. They are reflecting on the knowledge passed on to them by Mahamati Prananaji. While it is about time for Mahamati Prananaji to go to bed, because Prananaji is old now, as we already know. In 1740, 1741, if we say, then he is already 65, 66 years of age. And he has traveled about 19,000 kilometers, about 12,000 miles, mostly on foot. So here his body is exhausted because it has experienced everything. It is tired. So Sundarsaji, feeling that Prananaji might not be well the next day, ask Prananaji to take some rest. But Mahamati Prananaji is having so much fun, having such a divine feeling explaining all of this to them. And there are some Sundarsats, the awakened ones, the blessed ones, the consorts of Paramdham, who listen wholeheartedly without flinching a bit. They are listening to the descriptions of Paramdham from Mahamati Prananaji. Because, as we all know, these listeners are listening to the stories of their abode, of their homes. When two friends meet that have met in a long time and talk about their families, their past and their past experiences, they do not feel sleepy. They can have a discussion until 2 or 3 in the morning, they won't feel sleepy. Because when they talk about their past, it is their past that they are listening to. It is their past and their past experiences that they are sharing with one another, so they do not feel sleepy. When someone comes and talks to me about my family, when someone comes and talks to me about what's happening at my home, then I won't feel sleepy because I'm concerned about it. I'm worried about it. I care about my family. I care about my home. So when Raji Maharaj Prananaji is describing all these things, Sundarsaji are embracing. They are moving along with Prananaji, experiencing the bliss, being there in the parts of Paramdham that Mahamati Prananaji is explaining. Sabala kare koi beech mein taku deta uttara. When Mahamati Prananaji is describing some certain things, there are some Sundarsaji who ask some questions, and Mahamati Prananaji answer all of them. When their questions are answered, Mahamati Prananaji again continues his discourse, and while he is answering the questions, sometimes it takes a long time for him to answer the questions. He's explaining from the Vedas, he's explaining from the Bhagavad, he's explaining from Gita, he's explaining from the Quran and all those scriptures, because in this nightly discourse, there are some who once believed in the Quran. So Mahamati Prananaji is asked the questions from the Quran and the Hadith sometimes. And sometimes Mahamati Prananaji is asked the questions about Vedanta, asked about the yogic practices and things of that nature. So he has to refer to all these different types of scriptures and explain to them, because as we all know that Tartam is the master key that unlocks the locked knowledge in these scriptures. Mahamati Prananaji, when he's engaged in discussion, it takes time for him to go to bed because he is not sleepy. He doesn't feel sleepy even at 12 or 1 in the morning, because he's explaining Paramdham. He finds himself in Paramdham and explaining the details of Ranga Mahal, Hauz Kosar Talab, Jamunaji, and all those different aspects of Paramdham, all these different natures of Paramdham. And finally, Baiji Maharani explains, she indicates Prananaji to wrap up his discussion, wrap up his discourse, and finally, Mahamati Prananaji stops and concludes his discussion. And when he wakes up from the discourse, the Sundarsat sing the form of Sri Raji Maharaj. Surupa Sundara Sanakula Sakumal Ruha Dekha Naina Kula Nura Jamal Fir Mehboob Ziyabata Hirade कि यकीन ने तेरा खोल फैले हाल जामा जड़ाओ जुड़ो अंग जुगत सो चार हार अंबर करे झलकार. Thus they are singing the form of Sri Raji Maharaj, meditating on the divine glorious form of Sri Raji Maharaj. As we all know that we chant Swarup twice, once in the morning, once in the evening. In the morning we chant स्वरूप ऐसा श्री राज श्री ठाकुरानी जी प्रथम भूमि में विराजमान भय तहाँ कंचन रंग को सिंहासन इनकी छे पाए छे डांडे एक एक डांडे में 10-10 रंग जबेरों की झलकत है 10. In the morning we sing this swarup and in the evening we sing the glorious form of Sri Raji Maharaj Swarup Sundar Sanakula Sakumala. Mahamati Prananath concludes his discourse. Mahamati Prananath rests on his bed. It is prepared by Sundar Sats. Now Sundar Satji, Lal Dasi and all the other Sundar Satji that are there, they start meditating on the Mool Milava, from where we are witnessing this game of suffering. And you might all be aware that Mahamati Prananath has instituted the practice of Chittavani, the practice of meditation of Paramdham. And in the Vedic culture and now to the world, meditation is considered to be one of the ways that people could find the hidden treasures of happiness within. So now the Western world has adapted meditation as a way of treating so many diseases, mental ailments, and it is a way one can deal with so many issues in their lives. And for meditation, what is required is concentration. So for that concentration, there should be something to concentrate on, and Mahamati Prananath gives them the resources, gives the Sundar Sat the resources to meditate on, to concentrate on, and that is the different features of Paramdham that we know. 25 paksha धाम तालाब कुंज बन जोहे माणिक नहरे बन के सोए पश्चिम चौगान बड़ बन कहिए पुखरा जी जमुना जी लहिए आठों सागर 8 जिमी के 25 पक्ष परम धाम के श्री धाम धनी के. So all these features of Paramdham are explained in such a detail that those Sundar Sats who want to concentrate their minds, they have the resources to do that. Lal Dasi and other Sundar Satji are meditating on Mool Milava and other aspects of Paramdham. It is the world suffers. People suffer in this world because they do not know where they find the happiness. It says some are engaged in petty worldly pursuits. Some are addicted into drugs. Some are addicted into smoking. Some are addicted into alcohol and things of that nature because they have not delved deeper within and found the resources, found the source of happiness. The bliss is within. It is not outside. But what we do is we associate happiness to outside things, material things, and we feel that when we receive that thing, then we'll be happy. Not knowing that the happiness we receive from outside things, material things, are only temporary. A new car, a new house, new belongings, new relationships, whatever that is, that we associate happiness with, is not something that gives us a happiness in eternity. What gives us happiness in eternity is our self-reflection. Awakened souls do not need anything else from the outside world to be in solace, be in tranquility, be at peace. dear Sundar Saji. There are these Sundar Sats who are doing the meditation of Paramdham, of Mool Milawa. They are roaming around, they're roaming their minds around different aspects of Paramdham. They are not worried about the world. They do not care about what their body wants. What they're worried about is the please of their souls. Because when they delve deeper, they find the source of happiness. And they are so in bliss that they do not care about anything else. Mahamati Prananath is resting, and other Sundar Saji, Lal Dasi, Manik Dasi, and other Sundar Saji are there meditating on Mool Milawa and Paramdham. And when Mahamati Prananath wakes up from the discourse, when he concludes the discourse, sometimes he has to go to the place, cottages of Sundar Sats. Marika bate karat hai, ye hujjat chitta marura, hasate uttar dete hai, koi nyay chukave ita. While the Sundar Sats are serving, there are 5,000. They are of different backgrounds, different academic standings, a different socioeconomic status. Although they are Sundar Sats, they are of different backgrounds. So sometimes when they're singing the glory of Prananath, while they're cooking and serving Prananath, some Sundar Sats have occasional tussle with each other, and Prananath invites those parties that are at debate with each other, fighting with each other, and Mahamati Prananath assures them that it is worth coming into consensus, because it would not establish a good sense when Sundar Sats fight with each other. Mahamati Prananath thus says in the book of Kirtan, Jina Sudha Seva ki nahi, na kachu samajhe baata, so kahe ko ginave saath mein, Jina Sudha na supana shakyat. Dear Sundar Saji, those who do not treasure the value of service, those who do not understand the transcendent understanding that are told to you, then why would you call yourself a Sundar Sat if you have no understanding of this world and beyond? Mahamati Prananath goes and get them to work together, get them to cooperate and not ever fight again. And Mahamati Prananath reminds Sundar Saji again and again that when Sundar Saji live in harmony with each other, live at peace with each other, then that makes Raji Maharaj happy. And when they fight, when they debate with each other in a critical tone, then that makes him sad. Because just as a parent, just as a dad, just as a mom, when our kids fight with each other, then that definitely makes us upset. And when two brothers are playing along, they are happy with each other, then the parents are happy as well. As Mahamati says, "Jyon jyon saath mein hota hai preet, tyon tyon mohi ko hota hai shukh. Jyon jyon virodh karat hai saath mein, antavahi ko hota hai dukh." So Mahamati Prananath wants all the Sundar Sats, although they are from different backgrounds, they have their own egos. Their ego come in between them. Their ego come in between the service of Prananath and the service of each other. Some feel that they have done more for Prananath than the other. Some say that the other party is cheating on their service. They are not doing their due diligence. Mahamati Prananath reminds them that it is their karma, and they would face the consequence. So do not fight. You are the awakened ones. You have left everything behind and you're fighting over these petty matters. Mahamati Prananaji has to do that at 1 in the morning sometimes. As Mahamati says, Evi lage dukha dena, the Sundar Sats who have left everything behind and are listening to the discourse, listening to the descriptions of Paramdham, are fighting over these petty matters. It is the same. Mahamati Prananaji finally comes back to Banglaji and rests on the bed. Sri Raja Pode Palanga Para Sabako Kahe Pranama, and Mahamati Prananaji takes some rest. And there are Sundar Sats who sing the Bani, sing the Vajan when Mahamati Prananaji takes some rest. And while the discourse is over and Prananaji goes to the cottages of Sundar Sats, when he knows that Sundar Sats are not at good terms with each other, and he returns, and by that time the 7th prahar is over and it's about 3 in the morning. Mahamati Prananaji is taking some rest, and there are Sundar Sats who are gathered near a place of Sundar Sats Kaka, and in his place they are doing the Charchani, they are discussing the descriptions of Paramdham, and they are looking at Charchani, the different features of Paramdham. They are looking into Rangamahal one day, they are looking into Jamunaji, they are measuring everything, they are calculating everything and discussing amongst each other. Dear Sundar Saji, they are engaged in meditation, they are engaged in discussions about Paramdham all the time. And Mahamati Prananaji is taking some rest, but when Mahamati Prananaji hears them talk, if they miss something, then Mahamati Prananaji reminds that you made a mistake there. The count is different than what you're doing. Rangamahal is 9-story tall, and 1 story equals to 400 kos. Mahamati Prananaji is explaining every little bit of detail that are missed. Kachu aankhe mili ke na mili, fera sunat hai kaan na koi aage piche harapa kahe kahe mumino ko subhan. If they make any mistakes, Mahamati Prananaji does not really feel sleepy. He does not sleep as much, because for the awakened souls, as Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse number 69 says, Yanisa sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisa pashyatyo mane. So the world goes to sleep at night, but the awakened souls awake all through the night, because the world that feels that when the sunrise happens and the world runs on that and everything is right and everything is known, for the awakened souls, it is during the night that a lot of work can be done, because there are not many distractions. Zavati suraj dekhiye leta andheri ghera. Mahamati Prananaji even says in the book of Kalas Hindi that when the sun rises, the world is surrounded by ignorance. It seems awkward to say that, but when the sun rises, what happens? We engage in the works of Maya. We engage in the works of the world. We go to the job. We are surrounded by worldly things and pursuits. Jiva pasu pakshi adami saba fire yaku fair. And when it's a broad daylight, we are less worried about our souls. We care about our body all day long. We care for our body. We care for the world. We go out, do our job. We go to school. We worry about our career. We worry about our homes. We worry about our families. But at night, when everything is sidelined, that is when we engage in spiritual pursuits. Such is the case in this Ashtaprahar Leela, this Sundar Sats, in the middle of the night from 3 a.m. to 6 p.m., 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., when everyone is asleep. These Sundar Satji are singing the glory of Rasyamaji. Rajasyama, Rajasyama, Rajasyama kahiye. Rajasyama, Rajasyama, Rajasyama kahiye. Jehi bidha rakhi ras, tehi bidha rahiye. Lal Dasi, with the remaining Sundar Saji that have not gone to bed yet. Lal Dasi leads the discussion on Paramdham. Sometimes they discuss the Leelas of Kunja Nikunjavan. Sometimes they discuss Fulbagh, one of the gardens. Sometimes they discuss about the Leelas of Nurbagh. Sometimes they talk about Pukharaji Pahad, from where the river Yamuna comes out. Sometimes they discuss about Surak, Tera Jhunda, Nau Devuri, Tapu Mahal, Hausa Kosar Talab. They talk about the Leelas that happen in different parts of Paramdham, and they experience the bliss. And when Lal Dasi explains all this, the remaining Sundar Sats feel as if they are walking alongside him in Paramdham. They are truly experiencing the bliss of those Leelas. Dear Sundar Satji, in this session from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., as we already said, there are more than 5,000 Sundar Sats in Panna with Prananath. And when Lal Dasi is explaining the Vritti, explaining Paramdham, in the Leelas of Paramdham, and walking Sundar Sat through these features, these places of Paramdham and its Leelas, sometimes there are 10 Sundar Sats, sometimes 20, sometimes 30, sometimes 40, 50, and sometimes a little more, out of 5,000 Sundar Sats, because these are the Brahma Srishtis, these are the moments, these are the consorts of the Lord Supreme. That is why they care less about their body. They are just meditating. They are just closing their eyes, listening to the descriptions of Lal Dasi, and they find themselves in Mul Milawa. They find themselves in Paramdham, as Lal Dasi is explaining. If something is missed, then again Prananath is there to remind Lal Dasi, you missed something there. And he's pointing out when he makes a mistake in the measurements of or things of that nature. And the Sundar Sats are experiencing the ecstasy of being there in Paramdham. While they are alive, they find themselves in Paramdham. While they are in this world, they find themselves in Paramdham. The final goal of our spiritual pursuit is to realize Paramdham and the glories of Paramdham while we find ourselves in this world. Itahi baithe gara jagiye dham. Being here, awakening our souls in Paramdham is the eventual goal of our spiritual penance. And when that happens, Sundar Saji, then life becomes glorious here in this world and as well in the beyond. Itavi dhanya dhanya, utavi dhanya dhanya. Dear Sundar Satji, Lal Dasi and other Sundar Sats continue to discuss, continue to reflect on the Leelas of Paramdham. In meditative state, they find themselves in different places of Paramdham, discussing each measurement, each color of the pillars. They talk about every swings, they talk about every tree, the measurements, they talk about the lightings, they talk about the pathways, they talk about everything that's there in that particular feature that they explain. Lal Das is taking the lead other Sundar Sajis are asking questions, flowing with him, flowing with his discourse, with his descriptions. Dear Sundar Saji, these are the moments. So it is true that there are 5,000 Sundar Sats with Prananaji. They all have left their families and everything behind, their businesses, their homes, to be with Prananaji, experience the divine bliss. Yet, when it comes to listening to the descriptions of Paramdham itself, doing the meditation of Paramdham itself, on the divine Leelas of Paramdham, rarely 100 Sundar Sats, and many times much less than 100 are there. Because, as we all know, the transcendence is not realized by everyone. So when we do Chittavani, when we are engaged in deeper spiritual penance, we find very few people listening to us, joining us. When there is a regular satsang where people get to sing bhajans and all that, and they get to dance, and there is a feast, a lot of Sundar Sats show up. But when there is a deeper discussion on the Leelas of Paramdham, when there is a Bani class, for example, when there are meditative sessions, only very few Sundar Sats show up. As we all know, that there are so many students that finish high school in the United States. There would be fewer as they go to undergrad, even lesser for master's degree, even lesser with PhD, and there will be very few doing the postdoc. So the higher you go in spiritual realm as well, there will be lesser participants, because it cannot be embraced by everyone. The path to such transcendence is a little tougher, is a little harder for everyone to tread on. So only very few selected souls, the blessed ones, can embrace such reality, the transcendent reality. So only 10, 20, 30, 50, and sometimes up to 100 Sundar Sats are there, reflecting on, being a part of the descriptions of Paramdham and its Leelas by Lalndasi and others that are guided by Mahamati Prananath himself. By that you would know, even in the satsang sessions, in the discussion sessions where Sundar Saji get to sing bhajan and all that, and they are recognized, a lot of Sundar Sats show up. In the discourse on Virat and Beetak and Charsani and the descriptions of Paramdham, only few participants will be there, and that's okay, because they are the ones, selected ones, blessed ones. And for that, I'm thankful to all of you guys for being with us for more than 2 months, because I was not as articulate, I was not as good. And as you all know, it was the first attempt to do the Beetak discourse in English. And there are some limitations in how we express ourselves in English, because as you all know, English is not our first language, it's not our native language. So despite those odds, you were always there. You were always there, chipping in with your invaluable insights, suggestions, and feedback. So for that, in the heart of Pracharya Sri Mahendra Maharaj and myself, you are the consorts of Paramdham, because you've always been there. Dear Sundar Saji, yes, it's about 5 in the morning. Sundar Saji offer Prananaji some medicinal water. And Mahamati Prananaji wakes up early in the morning, and again, the daily routine of Ashtaprahar Seva begins. Thus, the Ashtaprahar Seva concludes for a day. And this routine continues for more than 11 years in Padmavati Puri Dham. This Sundar Sats serve Prananaji yet again I remind you that he is the Lord Supreme for those 5,000 Sundarsats. Yet some receive him very highly. Some serve him because they are in Panna. Some do not care much because there are the Brahma Srishtis. There are the consorts of Lord Supreme. There are the consorts of Akshara, and there are the ordinary Jivas. All of their dispositions are different. All of their vows are different. All of their feelings towards Pranaji are different. Yet they are there, listening to Pranaji, awakening their souls. But Mahamati Prananaji says that for the souls that were there with him, he was there to guide them. He was there to bless them. But what happens for the souls that would come in the future after he leaves this world behind? So he says, Pichale Sathamate Bani Kahi. So the Bani is there for other Sundarsats for the future. Dear Sundarsatji, thus these Sundarsats are engaged in discussions, debates in service of Prananaji. It was the year 1750, in the first month of the year, in the month of Beetak. Mahamati Prananaji said, Chalo, chalo re Shataji apna jaiye dham. It's about time that we awaken ourselves in Param Dham. Sundarsatji realized that Mahamati Prananaji is about to leave this world to Param Dham. Baiji Maharani, the divine spouse, as we would call her, she said to Prananaji one day, you have awakened so many souls. You have awakened thousands of souls during your lifetime. You have traveled across the world, awakening souls, awakening the consorts of Param Dham, and you are about to awaken yourselves in Param Dham. And I would not want that no one welcomes you in Param Dham. So I would leave this world and prepare and welcome for you in Param Dham. At the age of 42, Baiji Maharani lives this world, and it is believed that she passed away in a divine way. The fire comes out of her body and her body turns into ashes in no time. It is believed that her travel to Param Dham becomes a miraculous one. At the time, there was a Sundarsat named Jasiyavai who would always sing the name of Prananaji. But he would never come any closer to Prananaji. He would chant the name, Prananath, Prananath, Prananath. And he was meditating, singing the glory of Prananaji. But he would never come to Prananaji, and Chhatrasal Maharaj and other Sundarsats asked him, if you always chant the name of Prananaji, then why don't you go meet him in person? He doesn't say a word. He does not open his eyes. He just keeps meditating and chanting the name of Prananaji. And finally, Maharaja Chhatrasal and other Sundarsats bring him closer to Prananaji. He submits, he bows down to Prananaji, and he does not even wake up. And Prananaji says he is already awakened in Param Dham. Bada jas liya jasiya jina chhode na raj kadama saath mein dhanna dhanna sabo kahi jaga pahunche atam. Jasiya Bhai finds himself awakened in Param Dham. That is the reason why he was not coming closer to Prananaji, because he knew that when he meets Raji Maharaj in Prananaji, then he would not be living in this world. He would leave his material body and he would be awakened in Param Dham. It was the year 1751. Mahamati Prananaji had already reminded from an year ago that it was about time that he would leave this world. A lot of Sundar Sadji felt that they would not be able to survive when Mahamati Prananaji will leave this world. So they are chanting Nijnam mantra. They continue to chant the Nijnam mantra and they leave this world with ease. Because they would not be able to tolerate the separation from Prananaji, whom they are with for many. They are there with Prananaji for 10, 15, 20 years. They have been with Prananaji in every step of the way. Prananaji is the Lord Supreme. In his absence, they would not be able to survive, and they do not want to experience that. So there are many Sundar Sadhs that passed away in 1751 before Prananaji even passed away. And Prananaji reminds them, those Sundar Sadhs who want to awaken themselves in Paramdham, they can chant Nijnam mantra and they can go with me to Paramdham. It was the year 1751 in the month of Shravan. संबत 1751 श्रावण बदी चौथ में रात पिछली घड़ी दोए आए फिरस्ता धाम से तीज भई रात घड़ी 14 लो उपरांत चौथ भई जब दोए घड़ी रात बाकी रह्यो समय अंतर ध्यान को तप. The Tritiya Tithi, the third day of the lunar calendar, was about to be over and the fourth was about to come. Doe ghadi raat baki rahe. So 5:15 in the morning, Mahamati Prananaji leaves this world. Mahamati Prananaji left for Paramdham, but the other Sundar Sadhs resided in the hearts of Paramdham in Prananaji. अब हुक्मे द्वार खोलिया लिया अपने हाथ हुक्मा दिल मोमिन के आय के अरस कर बैठे कसम. So Mahamati Prananaji passes away in 1751. So there are 4 special Sundar Sadhs, 4 special souls. They were assigned different precious works. The assignment of writing the biography of Prananaji and Satguru was assigned to Lal Dasi. Kesav Dasi was assigned to collect and compile the revelations of Bani at different times. Maharaja Satrasal is assigned to take care of Sundar Sadhs and propagate the teachings of Mahamati Prananaji and Satguru Maharaj. And Mukunda Dasi was given the assignment of propagating the Tartam to the world. Mahamati Prananaji says, Satha Charane Ai Soto Sai, those who have come to me, those who have met me, those who have submitted to me, for them, they are blessed already. But for those Sundar Sadji that will be awakened afterwards, for them, this Bani, this revelation is there for them. Dear Sundar Sadji, for that reason, that Prananaji resides in the book of Tartam, that Raji Maharaj resides in the book of Tartam, the understanding of Paramdham, the understanding of the poem of Sri Raji Maharaj is there in the book of Tartam in every Pranami temple. The book of Tartam is worshipped as Sri Raji Maharaj himself. And from the next day, on the 5th day of the lunar calendar, a day after Mahamati Prananaji passes away, until the day of Sri Krishna's advent into this world, or Sri Krishna Prakatya, Mahamati Lal Dasi writes the history of Satguru Maharaj and Prananaji, and then has a discussion on that, has a discourse on that with Sundar Sadhs, and in about a month he finished writing the Beetak. Dear Sundar Sadji, that is what we discussed in these 60 to 63 days. The Beetak, the biography written by Lavdasi. We've heard a lot about the glory of service. We've learned the struggles. We learned a lot about the value of perseverance, value of consistency, the value of hard work, the value of sacrifices. Satguru Maharaj and Prananath have done so much for us to awaken us, to bless us with their transcendent understanding. Being the Sundarbai Sakhi and Indravati Sakhi of Paramdham, having the jewel and all the divine powers of Syamaji Maharani and Raji Maharaj himself, they had to go through some difficult times to remind us that awakening our soul in this material world, in this world of forgetfulness, is not going to be easy. Yet, the reward is great. The reward is incomparable if we focus on the pleas of our soul, if we focus our attention on awakening our soul with the transcendent understanding that is entitled to us, dear Sundarshadji. So, Beetak is a reminder that the world is the way it is. It's never going to change. It's not going to be any better than this. And in this forgetfulness, we are given the transcendent understanding with which we are to awaken our souls. There would be difficult times in life, but take lessons from the lives of Satguru and Prananath. Prananath had to renounce his wife. Prananath had to be in prison. Prananath was given the death sentence. Prananath had to put on a lady's costume and run away from the prison. Prananath was seized by the enemies of truth in different places. Prananath was starved for days. What didn't Prananath have to experience? In the meantime, there were times when Prananath was given the hero's welcome. He got the warmer welcome than an emperor, than the king, when he reached Udaipur and the place of Vavsingharda. When he reaches Panna, he is given all the things like ornaments, the delicacies, and everything that he was awarded. More than 5,000 Sundarshadji call him Prananath, the Lord. Dear Sundarshadji, the lesson that we learn from this Beetak, the value of service, the value of hard work, everything that we learn can guide us towards a more fulfilling life, a more complete life, a purposeful life, and eventually awaken in Paramdham. So I hope that we all take these lessons home from this Beetak discourse. And on tomorrow's discourse, a little bit of description would be given on the 14 books and the contents. What is there in the book of Ras? What is there in the book of Prakash? There would be discussions on the book of Satarita, book of Kalas, book of Khulasa, Kirantan, Parikrama, Sagar, Singar, all those books. And tomorrow we'll do the conclusion of our Beetak discourse, Purnahuti as we call it.